gets it to go and the foul. Going under it. And he makes the catch. And for the first time since 2005, your Wellesley Raiders are the Division I South Sectional Champions.
Running back the other way for the Raiders. Birdie shot.
Score! Sophie Birdie finds the back of the net from the faceoff circle, and with 1:14 to go, the Raiders take a 3-2 lead. And welcome to the fall sports edition of Black Red Blitz Rewind. As always, I'm your host, Rebekah Caron, and joining me tonight, of course, guest co-host, Robbie Johnson. Robbie, thanks for showing up.
Glad to be here. I mean, this is always a fun episode to do. We did, the winter sports recap and then the spring sports recap, and now back with the fall sports recap as we have a lot of fun and exciting fall sports highlights to go over tonight. Boys soccer, football, field hockey, girls soccer, girls volleyball, all on the table tonight. So why not just jump right into it? Rebekah, now usually the last couple of recaps I've sort of kicked things off, but tonight, why don't we have you kick things off and talk about the very exciting field hockey season?
Yeah. Field hockey was very exciting, and I always like to see how a team responds coming into a new season, especially after they've lost a lot of valuable seniors from the year before. And that was the case here for field hockey. I think Coach Howe actually had probably one of her most stacked lineups in general for the roster, because even though she lost starting goalie Sinclair Vandervoort, midfield Kat Donahue just owned that position, and other seniors as well. So the new captains in Phoebe Lawrence and Alex Ramsden really took over the new positions like totally in sync. Like you wouldn't have believed that, hey, they went from defense now midfield. Alex Ramsden was just a force to be reckoned with offensively, and Phoebe Lawrence just doing her thing, whether still defensively and also scoring goals as well. And so to see the Raiders jump out in the first 10 games unbeaten, and their first game that they played on the road at Walpole, 0-0 tie. Like Walpole has just owned them probably for like 20 years before that awesome overtime
conference for that.
Once that happened, now Wellesley has really shown that they can play with a team like Walpole and compete with them. So that was really great to see for those first 10 games, playing like they had a chip on their shoulder. And also another exciting game too was against Waltham, an unfamiliar team that they had played against, not having to compete with Dedham anymore since they're not in the Bay State Conference. Pick a couple different teams.
Yeah.
Waltham, that was a battle throughout the game, and just to see in the last 20 seconds, Kayla Johnston on the breakaway to bury that score. So that was another solid win. So there were a lot of tight games that they won, but unfortunately what happened was during the end of the season, they hit a little speed bump, roadblock, whatever you want to call it. So their last 7 games, they went 3-4. So still, earning a number 10 seed on a tourney ain't too shabby. And so even though it was a lower seed, they still got home field advantage for the prelim as they faced a Hingham team, and easily took care of them with Caroline Dolan starting the scoring, and then Brooke Hamilton and Kayla Johnston taking care of the rest. Though unfortunately their tournament season would be cut short, sadly, by their rivals Needham in the end. But this season was definitely one to be proud of. And when you look back at it, you keep thinking about the resilience of this team and how they were able to overcome challenges. And that starts first with the 11 seniors that they had on the roster. And as we're displaying the pictures too from senior ceremony, just Phoebe Lawrence, Alex Ramsden, Emily Hollingsworth, Kayla Johnston, just to name a few, just did their part in making an impact on this team, whether it was even just a vocal leader on the bench or just coming in during the game and just making an impact. And not to keep talking because, especially sorry, I've just been coming back from a sickness, so I sound like fingernails down the blackboard. So what was something that you took out of that season that can hopefully save the ears of everybody in Wellesley right now?
Well, two things, and you talked about defense, and obviously in a sport like field hockey, goaltending is quite key if you want to be successful. And the Raiders this season had Natalie Boyle in net, who did a tremendous job between the pipes. And I think the biggest game to sort of look back on, or one of the biggest games, was right at the start of the year, that Walpole game that you mentioned. First game of the year, Walpole, defending state champions, I believe.
Even if you had to guess, probably right.
Yeah,
it's Walpole.
They're Walpole. They're good. But she comes out and holds them to a scoreless tie.
Yeah.
I mean, that in and of itself is, first of all, it gives the team a lot of confidence and momentum heading into the rest of the season, but also gives her a lot of confidence. Say, hey, if I can shut out a team like Walpole, I can shut out pretty much anybody. And she did. Even in the games that, they lost, like the Needham game, I mean, she only gave up one goal in that first round loss. Unfortunately, the offense just couldn't come through. But, boy, and then another one, again, talking about defense, Grace Donahue did a tremendous job on the defensive end, really used her height to her advantage, which is
only
always
a freshman.
Only a freshman, and definitely definitely helped out at that back end in front of Boyle to limit teams' scoring opportunities, and it was good to see the Raiders really shine this year on the defensive end. So, as we always do for each of these teams, it is now time for our Raider game changer for field hockey. Rebekah, who do you have for the girls this year?
Well, for me, I have to pick junior Brooke Hamilton. I mean, I think the majority of opponents that came in made the mistake of looking at her size. She's only 5 feet. So they made the mistake of looking at it and maybe even just writing her off like, we'll focus our attention on Ramsden or Lawrence or some other score. And that's the mistake that would bite them in the butt, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
No.
Okay.
What
because
it is.
What you can't measure is heart, and this kid has a ton of heart and would play relentless on offense, defense, had fantastic stick handling. I mean, there's some passes that she made. It's hard to make quality passes in a game of field hockey. They got a lot of rules about how you're supposed to pass and how it's supposed to connect with the stick. Like, it's hard to figure out field hockey, just to be honest. And so for her to be able to do that, and still as a junior, speaks a lot to how talented she is. But again, I think the most thing that stands out is her offense. Her ability to find an open teammate just in the open field and connect on a perfect feed led to a lot of quality assists throughout the season. And that also helped Alex Ramsden have a pretty stellar senior season as well, because Brooke was the setter for penalty corners, and she would set up Alex like it was like a 1-2 punch for a lot of the games. And even you could see how much of an impact she was going to make, even just from the first game against Weymouth, getting a goal there. And then also, I mean, they had a huge game against Brookline. I think they scored 9 times. She had 2 goals, 3 assists in that game. And again, she's only a junior. But really, she just made everyone around her better. So it was no surprise that she was actually ranked number 8 in the Boston Globe top 25. So it's definitely, I feel like next season is going to just be even better for her. So now that we've pretty much talked up about field hockey. If we missed out on anything, well, sorry. But can't talk about everybody.
Yeah.
But now we're going to move on to boys soccer. So, I mean, I think it's Captain Obvious here by saying that they had a pretty fantastic year. So, you want to kind of round that up?
They certainly had a fantastic season. I mean, 14-3-1 overall is never too shabby a record. Bay State Harrogate champions. I think this is the second time in 4 years or something like that they've captured the Harrogate Division Championship. Under head coach Tim Mason, who since he got here to Wellesley has done a really good job of taking that program and turning it into something where year in and year out they are right at the top of the Bay State Harrogate Division. Actually was recognized this year as the Eastern Mass Coach of the Year. So I want to give congratulations to Coach Mason on that. But you just sort of look at just top to bottom, this team had a ton of contributors. You look at players like Ryan Clare, who in the first round playoff victory against BC High had a hat trick, scoring 3 of the team's 4 goals in a 4-1 win there. You look at a player like Edward Lash or Ryan Moham or Daniel Frey, all again just doing their job. You know, we hear the Patriots always use the old saying, "Do your job." Well, for boys soccer, it really echoed true. I mean, whether it was a defenseman or a midfielder or an offensive guy, I mean, you know, just top to bottom, everybody filled their role, did their job, and you know, unfortunately, this team's season, I should say, came to an end a bit shorter than they would have liked. Unfortunate 3-2 penalty kick loss to Weymouth in the quarterfinals at home. You never want to lose in the tournament, but especially not on your home field when you're the 2 seed and you know, Weymouth being the number 7 seed. But still, just a tremendous run for this boys team. And you know, again, the last few years, I feel like we're always talking about them being right up there as one of the teams to watch in both the Bay State League and Division I South. And this year was no different. I actually got a little bit of revenge on BC High, because a few years ago I know BC High knocked them out of the tournament at Sprague Field in the quarterfinals of D1 South. So this year for them to get that victory over them in the first round, nice little. I know. I don't think a lot of these guys were on the team when that happened, but still a nice little measure of payback there. So that's sort of my wrap up there of the boys soccer team. So, Rebecca, what did you see as sort of covering the games out there this season?
I think the 3 things that stuck out to me that was different from other years before was the 3 C's: confidence, consistency, and chemistry. And that was evident throughout the whole season, throughout the whole lineup. I mean, you look at the confidence that a player like Willie Corkill can have every game. You know coming in what he's going to do. He's been doing it since he was a freshman. Now coming in as a senior captain. Not just the ability to score, but I think even more this season, he shined through as the one, you know, dishing out the assists and being the unselfish player. And the chemistry, again, I mean, I think the surprise for me was having Ryan Clare come back, like you mentioned about Ryan Clare, having the Hattie in BC, but it was also just so much more. It was pretty much every game. He was always contributing. And he was also good at dishing out the assists, but being a true finisher in the aspect of burying the goals when they needed the most. And obviously losing against Weymouth was a heartbreaker, but if you look back at that game, I mean, the outcome wasn't what they wanted, but it was such a playoff atmosphere, just back and forth. They had the lead, Weymouth tied it. They think they had the momentum, tied at 1-1. It's late in the second. Well, guess who scored 15 seconds later? Ryan Clare. And the place like just goes crazy. I mean, the bench, it was pretty crazy. It's just something special, you know. Obviously, that wasn't how they wanted to end the season, but again, the chemistry. Christopher Cole, that was another player that I really enjoyed seeing. He made an impact even last year as a sophomore late in the season, so it was. I was looking forward to seeing how he would do coming in as a junior, and just exceeded my expectations at least. And you know, playing up against Brookline, who always seems to play them tough, had a hat trick against Brookline. So again, with that consistency, where in times past, other seasons before, maybe in a close game, it would end up being a tie. But again, the consistency that comes into play, that they were able to put goals on the board, and maybe if the other team, the opponent, responded, they didn't panic, and they finished it out, and that was a huge contributor to having one of their best seasons in quite a while. And again, losing to Weymouth, the lower seed, and of course someone also in Bay State Conference. Yeah, you don't want to lose to a Bay State Conference rival in the playoffs. And penalty kicks after double overtime, I mean, that was a heartbreaking loss. Let's put it that way, for all the effort, back and forth game. But when you think about the season, this is nothing that these 10 seniors can be disappointed or you know, hold your heads up high. This was a fantastic season, one that, you know, has been so much better than other seasons before. And I think that loss will also give some motivation, a spark to the talent that still remains that'll be back next year. But again, we do the game changer, so you know, we can talk about a lot of players, but you know, what to narrow down, who do you think was the game changer for boys soccer?
I am gonna have to go with Will Corkill. I mean, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of players that could have gotten the nod, but you know, we talked about, again, the added do your job, and Will Corkill certainly did his during this season, whether it be setting up his teammates or putting the ball in the back of the net himself. He seemed to always be a magnet for the ball. He seemed to always find the ball out there, always seemed to be in the right spot. You know, I mean, I've been, you know, the last couple of years, I know he's just been a offensive force for this Raider team again, whether it's assisting on goals or scoring them himself. And just another tremendous season in his senior year for Corkill, and you know, really led this team, you know, sort of that senior leadership, was a captain, definitely just did a great job for them, you know, sort of leading by example, and you know, making the right plays out there. And like you said, him and those other seniors have a lot to be proud of, following, you know, what was a tremendous season. But I just feel like Will Corkill really had the ability to change games and really, you know, impact games with his play out there. And he's going to be missed. I mean, obviously, you know, there will be younger players that we mentioned that will hopefully step up, but you know, he was definitely quite the contributor for Wellesley boys soccer, and you know, will be weird next year not seeing him in a lot.
I know, it seems like sometimes it's these certain players that obviously, of course, they're going to be playing 4 years, but sometimes there's just some players that it feels like they've been on a team for 6 or 7 years.
And when they're not there,
when you expect them to be back.
Where they go? Yeah. But speaking of soccer, now let's switch gears to the girls soccer team that had a very exciting season. What was a new era for them? So Rebekah, why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, for girls soccer, I think when I heard the news during the off season that John Brown had hired a new head coach in Kat Whitehill. I don't know a lot about soccer, but I do know that it's pretty fantastic news.
I know the name
in soccer world.
Yeah, when I know the name, it's usually is a pretty big
so
deal.
to get a head coach like that, I mean, someone that has played professionally, multiple teams.
World Cup?
Yeah.
Olympian?
From an Olympic, I mean,
List
not
goes
too
on and
shabby.
on, yeah.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
What to have on your resume. But also, I mean, she just loves the game of soccer. And you can tell just when first time you meet her. And so to get a head coach like that, I think was just absolutely fantastic for this team because they've faced adversity at least the last 5 or 6 years. I can remember it's just been losing seasons. You know, I'm not saying that as a negative, but facts are facts. They've missed the playoffs. It can be draining mentally for players to just have a losing season. You know, you just missed the playoffs. And so, like I said, it was just perfect to get a head coach like that. And from day one, from practice, even their first game, it was a 2-0 loss against Walpole. I could even tell the difference there was just this complete different energy and focus on this team. And it started first with the 3 captains that the Raiders were very fortunate to have in Abby Silverstein, Caitlin Tchaikovsky, and Kelsey Zarro. I mean, they've been playing soccer for a long time, and also just to have multi-sports players too as well. You know, it's always great to see players that play different sports but also excel at them as well. And the leadership they had from day one. What I got out of this team was that there was a lot of, I keep using this word resilience, but man, I think that's just part of being a Raider.
Yeah.
Is resilience. And another thing too is heart. I mean, you can't have enough heart.
Yeah.
I mean, this team faced a lot of adversity. They still had their struggles, but what changed in this season from other seasons before, and I mentioned it with boys soccer as well, but I think it was more defined even for the girls, is that in other times they'd start off good in a game and then the other team would come back and then it would just end up being a tie or even, unfortunately, a loss. And I think that the example that, for me, that proved that point was how different this year was against Milton. I mean, you always want to beat Milton. Seems like in soccer, Milton seems to have the upper hand most of the time. Raiders came out and built a quick 2-0 lead in the first half, and they came out at halftime, and Milton scored 2 goals out of the blue, and it was suddenly, okay, now it's 2-2. Uh-oh, you know, is this going to be a tie? And again, that's when you saw this team just not give up. And you know what? Okay, we're facing adversity, we're facing a challenge. Let's go out and score the go-ahead. And of course, Caitlin Tchaikovsky buried that. So that was a huge win for them and to build up their confidence. And I think the other game too that stands out in my mind, and I think will stand out in the players' minds for a long time, is the fact their losing streak to Needham.
Yeah.
It seems like every sport we have the upper hand with Needham, but girls soccer, according to one parent who knows soccer really well, showed me it had been a decade since Raiders had beaten Needham in girls soccer.
Wow.
So here we go, late in the season, Raiders improving with each game, and they got a shot at the postseason. They got a game at home against Needham. If they win, they get a playoff berth. And of course, it's a 10-year drought. And just seconds, I don't even know if it was 10 seconds in, maybe 20 seconds, but it was literally seconds. Turnover deep in their own offensive end. Needham turns the ball over. Izzy Turco goes right in front of a supposed clear out, body blocks it, recovers it, buries it. That is how the game started. Like, I don't know how much more you can do to spark a team against their rivals to do that, and that was fantastic. To just suddenly be up 1-0, and then Caitlin Tchaikovsky scored later in that half, and they just held on to win. And it was a huge confidence builder for them, and just huge in general because we got to go. That was their punching in their ticket to the tournament, ending that streak, and even better, they knocked Needham out of playoff contention with that win. So you can tell I don't like Needham.
Just getting a little bit of that vibe,
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
But, again, this was a season of just a team that didn't give up, even in their losses. I mean, they won. They pulled out the victory in the preliminary round at home at Durfee, which was great to have a home game for the playoffs, which was great. Got past them, but they had to play the very next day. That stunk for scheduling, I would have to say. I mean, I don't know how tired you are after playing, and then the next game.
It was supposed to be on Sunday, but then they pushed it back
so instead of pushing it to Monday, they pushed it to Saturday.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you did not see any player tired at all. Or, they played their hearts out. And to go up against a number 2 seed in Newton South, that first half was very competitive. They were down 1-0, and to have Charlotte Vernier bury that equalizer off a cross from Avery Moen. They were tied for a little bit at 1-1, and then even though they were down 3-1 at halftime, it was still a game. Unfortunately, Newton South then pulled away in the second half, blah, blah, blah. But the Raiders did not throw in the towel. They still were competing, and it was just, I don't want to keep saying that it was a fun season. It was fun because, again, I'm not that much into soccer. And you know what? Every home game, I couldn't wait to go and film it because it was it was just gonna be
just the excitement.
Excitement. I don't know if I want to say inspiring, but you know what? I'll say it was inspiring because you got these kids that just are playing their hearts out, and it was just a huge difference from what the seasons I've seen before. And I'm not trying to step on the other seasons before, but to see the attitude change, and even when they lost, it was like you saw on their faces they wanted the rematch, like right then and there, and that is inspiring. And so, even though it ended quicker than they would have liked to, it was still a lot of fun. And I keep rambling on, so maybe you should take over and mention some other people.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned back in field hockey, the whole idea of needing a sturdy goaltender to be successful, and the Raiders girls soccer team had that as well, with a name that Raider hockey fans will know quite well, Mackenzie O'Neill.
Yes.
Only a sophomore starting in net for this Raider team, and I had the opportunity to see that unfortunate first round loss to Newton South in the tournament. But I gotta say that even though she let up 4 goals, and they, unfortunately, it was a losing effort, Mackenzie O'Neill still impressed me with the fact that, she made some pretty key saves that could have made it even worse. But also, she took a couple of pretty tough hits there by Newton South players. It just got right back up here. Used that hockey toughness to just sort of bounce right back up and stay in the game. So I was just very impressed with her. I know all season long she did a great job of keeping the Raiders in games and playing steady in net for the Raiders. And another couple of players that also stood out were Nicole Beckett. It really seemed like anywhere the ball was, Nicole Beckett was, really just battling out there and, playing very aggressive and, just doing a great job. Also, Abby Camella as well. Really, again, I hate to use this adage continually, but do your job. And her and Beckett, and even Mackenzie O'Neill, certainly did theirs, helping this Raider team, like you said, to a postseason berth and a postseason victory as they begin the new era under Coach Whitehill. And now that I've sort of given my take, Rebekah, it's time now for, again, the Raider game changer. Who stood out to you, maybe just a little bit extra for the girls soccer team this season?
There were a lot of players that stood out to me, but I have to go with Caitlin Tchaikovsky. as one of the senior captains. I think I mentioned before when we were talking about the boys that it's always great to see a player excel, not just play multiple sports, but then to excel in it. Like when you talk about Caitlin Tchaikovsky, you immediately think lacrosse because from day one, freshman, just mind-blowing how fantastic she is as lacrosse, already committed to play at Stanford. But she's also a fantastic soccer player as well. And it was just great to see the impact she made in pretty much each game. Even if she wasn't scoring, she was making the key passes, a lot of times to the benefit of Olivia Francis, just some young players, Izzy Turco, who just suddenly, like, mid-season started making more of an impact suddenly in the lineup, and it's like, oh, who's Izzy Turco? You know, immediately, like, against Norwood, just fantastic. They have a lot of young talent, and Tchaikovsky found a knack of, like, getting that pass, that cross to that person and having them score key goals. And also Tchaikovsky had fantastic chemistry with fellow captain Kelsey Zaro. They've been playing soccer since middle school, so you can tell. It was always like Kelsey Zaro maybe wasn't the scorer, but she was the if you want to say the set upper.
Yeah.
If she wasn't dishing out the assist, she was setting it up for some, and Tchaikovsky was at the benefit of that many times. And I think of one of the words that sticks out for me that to describe Caitlin was tenacious. She was aggressive in front of the net, and if the goalie, you know, stuffed her shot, you know what, she was going right back and trying again. And just thinking of some games that stood out, Newton North, that whole game, it was all Caitlin. She had a hat trick, which again, hat tricks are pretty hard in soccer.
Yeah.
You know, if you're talking about hat tricks in lacrosse, that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get that in the first half already. You
Yeah.
know? So it just showed how much talent she had as a soccer player, and her footwork as well. Just finding separation away from opponents in order to score, and that the footwork was showcased when Milton had tied up that game 2-2. Tchaikovsky deked and did this great move around a player, completely made herself wide open and buried the what was the go-ahead, but ended up being the game-winning goal. You know, and then you go to the game against Durfee, where it was a tight game, you know, battling both teams, and you knew whoever was going to score first was going to win. And Caitlin Tchaikovsky buried that clutch shot to advance them to face Newton South. So, again, that's what being a game changer is all about, that you're consistently making an impact on a game, but you're also helping out your teammates along the way as well, and making your teammates around you better. Trying to look over my notes, I think there were 8 seniors. This season was definitely one to be made in the memory books, and then who we get to see coming back next year, because there were so many sophomores and juniors that also made an impact this year. They'll be back next year, so it'll definitely be exciting to see what awaits girls soccer. But enough about soccer now. We're going to the other football, if you want to put it that way. Robbie, let's talk about Raider football.
Yeah, I mean, this Raider football team, you know, they were coming off one of their most successful seasons in school history. You know, they went 10-1 in 2016, and unfortunately, you know, sometimes as a team you get hit with key graduation, a lot of holes through graduation. Certainly this 2017 edition of the football team was no different, as they lost a lot. But I think the thing about this year's football team is that they did not let that get them down. They still, in every game, battled to the very end. And they had some tough losses. I know Hingham early on in the season, you know, after they beat Concord Carlisle in the opener, they got shut out at home by Hingham. But, you know, they persevered through that and came back and And again, got some key victories down the stretch. If you look at a game like Norwood, who they just, clobbered 42-0.
That was a fun game.
And then you look at like Durfee. We're talking about Durfee for soccer. They also play Durfee in football, and the week after the Hingham game, actually, and
on the road.
On the road,
yeah.
and
Okay.
came out with a
Gonna
victory
say, did I miss a game?
against Durfee. And unfortunately for this year's team, the playoffs were not in the cards. They finished 3-4, but lost a very tough game to Natick, which could decided playoff fate there. But they didn't let that get them down. They still came out and they won 2 out of their last 3 games heading into Thanksgiving, and then with Matt Mayona, a sophomore, starting at quarterback and replace the injured Jack Tishman, they come out at home, first Thanksgiving game on the new turf field, and they get the victory against the Rockets, 23-20, and what was a thrilling Thanksgiving game.
That was a fun game.
Against the Rockets at Honeywell Field. And I guess when you look at this team, again, a very young team, but there were a couple of seniors who really stood out. Deontay Moore, especially in that Needham game. I mean, he had 2 interceptions, including 1 for a pick 6. And then when you think about football, and also on offense, Deontay Moore, as a running back, really
Fantastic, yeah.
did fantastic just the whole season, just really breaking off some big runs, showing that toughness that you have seen these Raider running backs show in past years. And then when you think of football, you think of up front, the linemen, the guys in the trenches, winning the battles, really setting it up for the skill guys. And the Raiders this year, had the pleasure of having Josh Cohen and Gus St. Fort sort of anchoring both the offensive and defensive line. Both seniors, both had, multi-year starters. And, I mean, they just were so impressive to watch. I mean, Josh Cohen, I felt like wherever the ball was, wherever the ball carrier was, he was in that backfield, every single play, whether it be on a sack or a tackle for a loss. And the same for Gus St. Fort. Just so impressive, again, anchoring that Wellesley line. And then there were a couple of young players that really stood out to me. First of all, Matt Mayona, like I said, your first varsity start at quarterback, and it comes on Thanksgiving Day against your arch rival at home, 130th installment, the oldest game in the country. And he played really well.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 1 interception, but even the first drive of the game, or the first or second drive of the game, the Needham gets out to a little bit of an early lead, but then Mayona, just really seemed to settle in as that game went along. And, even the first couple of drives was showing poise of a veteran quarterback, despite being, first time starting. And then he also started at safety as well in that game, and had a big interception, I know, to help seal out that game. Another young player, just a freshman, Shiloh White. Folks, I gotta tell you something. You are gonna be hearing this name called a lot in the next 3 years of this Raider football program. Shiloh White, only a freshman, saw a significant time at running back for this Raider team, and you know what? He really impressed. I mean, he just very fancy maneuvering. Really, again, sort of, we talk about a lot of these Raider backs, just turning the feet, being aggressive, being physical, not going down without a fight. And he really did just that. Even as just a freshman, showed that sort of toughness that you want to see out of a Raider back. And then the last player was Hugh Callahan, a receiver. Had a big game, had a touchdown reception against Needham, and aided in had a pick himself and then aided in that game on the IMT. But he really seemed to be Jack Tishman's favorite target, and then Matt Mayona in that Thanksgiving game's favorite target to go to. And 6-5 overall, actually extended a bit of a streak that they've been on, and that is that they've had a winning record every season since Coach Jesse Davis took over this program back 5 years ago. So that's not a bad feat. Anytime you can finish above 500 is a pretty good season, especially to get to above 500 by beating Needham on Thanksgiving Day.
Sure.
Is always not a bad way to end the season there. And I think this Raider team has a lot to be optimistic about as they head into future seasons. So now that I've sort of broken down some of the players and games for this year's football team, Rebekah, who sort of stood out to you watching this team this season?
I don't know if you left any players for me, honestly.
Sorry.
So I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, okay, that's taken. So I'll just reiterate a little bit more on some of them. I really liked the running back core. As you were talking about Shiloh White, he's going to be doing great things. Already did great things. If you want to watch some of his highlights, check out the Concord Carlo game and the Norwood game. Fantastic. Jack Tishman, I don't want to take too much about Jack Tishman, but he was on. I mean, the play action and the quarterback option when that was running good, those are the games that they just seemed unstoppable. And fortunately, this was a season of ups and downs. But they also lost a lot of players from last year, so it's not like they had the same players and then came back and after a season of last year and then struggled to get to 500.
Right.
They had a lot of voids to fill, and I think it helped with having Jack Tishman return from being the quarterback from last year, so at least they had that for them. But the wide receivers, the void of not having Brendan Dolan, Hugh Callahan, I think did a tremendous job filling in. Obviously can't always 100% fill that void, but you do you pretty much. And I think Hugh Callahan did a fantastic job as a wide receiver, and Davis Atala too later in the season too as well. Made some fantastic catches, and even the loss against Walpole. I mean, they always play Walpole tough. I almost said waffle, and I'm hungry. And that was a 13-7 loss, but you know what? I liked what I saw in the second half. They were being shut out at halftime. They made the halftime adjustments. And Jack Tishman started up a nice solid drive, 10 plays I believe, and 75 yards down, and ran it in for a touchdown. So, unfortunately a loss, but they were still competing. Obviously the Hingham game was a game you want to forget forever. Pretty much. That wasn't Raider football, that game. But for them to then go back against Norwood, they needed that win, so bad. After losing against Walpole and then losing on the road at Milton. So that was a huge confidence boost for the players, and that was great to see. And with football, you got a ton of seniors every year. So they had 18 seniors. I mean, we don't have enough time to list them all.
You could do a whole
but
show dedicated to just the seniors for football alone.
I mean, and Teddy Darcy too as well. He got to have some time with the ball too as well as a running back, and made some great plays as well. And I think the play that I'll remember, and I'm sure he will remember as well, as senior Josh Cohen. I mean, talk about the best Thanksgiving Day game for him, blocking. Actually, someone else blocked it. They blocked the point after.
Right,
But he came up with it, and he was
took it to
gone.
the house.
And you know what helped? There was a huge block by Deontay Moore. If you go back on that play, he has a ton of real estate in front of him, but what has helped out first, Deontay Moore just lays down this huge block. But Cohen was just gone. I actually, honestly, didn't even know it was Cohen. At first, I thought it was a defensive back that got that, because that's pretty good for an offensive lineman, defensive tackle, to end the season, and especially for the 18 seniors to end their high school career on Thanksgiving Day, beat their rivals and not have their starting quarterback. Maybe a lot of people thought maybe this was going to be a loss, and I'm included. I will say I had a little doubt there, and that's
a reserved comment on that one.
But no, I don't mind saying that because that is when I love being proved wrong, and so that was again just a great way to end their high school career as a Wellesley Raider. But obviously we got to pick a game changer for football. So who have you not talked about yet?
Well, it's actually going to be somebody that, that we both talked about, Jack Tishman. I mean, you hear in football all the time that an offense is only sometimes as good as your quarterback, and your quarterback has to be your field general, your captain, your leader. And Jack Tishman is all those things. Like you said, started last year as a junior, had a tremendous junior season, and then comes back this year and, really at time, most of the time really did look impressive at quarterback, and just with his senior leadership as a senior captain, just really led the team by example, knew the offense inside and out, really just, when he wasn't making plays with his arm, he was making plays with his leg. And folks, if you don't believe me, go back to that Walpole game and watch for one play in particular where he literally just leaps over a Walpole defender on the midst of a first down run. I mean, that is some pure athleticism right there.
Check it out on Twitter, too.
Yeah, shown by Jack Tishman. I'm sure he would have loved to play in his last high school game on Thanksgiving, and I feel for him that he wasn't able to be out there. But just the last 2 years, and this year included, he was your prototypical quarterback. Was just a great leader on and off the field. Did all the right things. Really led the offense, and he's going to be missed. It's good that Matt Mayona, is going to come in with some game experience. It's a very successful game experience next year, and I think that, again, gives the program something to be very optimistic about. But they will miss Tishman, and, I'm sure he's going to go on to do great things. And so now that I've talked up for the multi of time Jack Tishman, now let's move on to sort of our final sport discussion, and that is a team that had another successful season, and that is girls volleyball. So Rebekah, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, this was a season of determination for these players. When you look at midway through the season, they're at 5-5, their record. They just lost tough games on the road at Walpole and Didek, and then to come back home and lose against Newton North, get swept by them. So they're at 5-5, and I think that was like the turning point to their season right then was, do you want to just keep going at 500 the rest of the way and maybe find a tournament berth, like the year before, where they kind of edged in, or start a spark and start believing in your teammates and just fight for each game. And that was a turning point. Their game against Norwood kick-started 6-game winning streak for them to finish off the season, and it was like the difference of night and day between these two teams, and that's when you really saw the captains shine, especially Megan Kruger and Meg Dosher. Just fantastic. I mean, you talk about chemistry, they would feed off of each other all the time, whether Dosher was starting it with the serve and Kruger finishing it with one of her nasty kills. I mean, it was just very exciting to see how they were able to spark the offense time and again, and that showed again with their record and improving each and every game. And they played some tough games as well, tough teams, winning 5 sets against Needham, always fun to do. Didek always plays them tough. And again, they had lost at Didek earlier in the season. So I believe Didek was the last game of the regular season.
Yeah, you're right.
So they played them at home, swept them. So that was a huge response by this team. And you could just see them improving with each game. And again, just to reiterate how much of, I don't want to say game changer because we're going to be talking about game changer soon, but just how much of an impact Dosher and Kruger was. And one instance, when you think of Dosher, that stays in my mind. They were playing an unfamiliar team in Georgetown. And I believe it was the second set, and they start the set, the Meg Dosher serving. Besides aces, and then just providing fantastic serves that would end up in being points for Raiders. The score was 21-0 before Georgetown finally got a point and stopped Dosher from serving.
Wow. You must be doing pretty well if you get 21.
Just filming it, and it was like,
serves.
and serve, and ace, and ace. It was just fantastic. So that was definitely a game that stood out, but just to show how I'm trying to think of the word here, and I can't even think of it. It's probably some simple thing. Overpowering. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
How overpowering the two of them were. If you shut down Megan, you couldn't shut down Meg. If you shut down Meg, you couldn't shut down Megan. It was like the combo was fantastic. And so winning their last six, then they ended the season, nice solid season at 11-5 because of the response to this team made and earned the number 9 seed in the Central West divisional playoffs, and had their first test was facing the number 8 seed Shepherd Hill Rams. And usually when you have the number 8 and number 9, they're like just barely, could go either way. Sometimes they're tied, and it's just whoever, one more in the contest or whatever, if that makes any sense. But
it's a coin toss.
Yes, that's what I mean, coin toss. Man, where's my brain? I'm glad I have you, man. But Shepherd Hill was actually 14-6, so there was a big difference. They played a little bit more games, and they had more wins, and so you have to travel what seemed like forever. I mean, this was the Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts line. This was
out there.
This was out there, and Shepherd Hill. What I find too when I go on the road for the volleyball playoffs, because they play in Central West, it's going to be a hike, but it's also going to be against a team that volleyball is huge there. They have a huge fan base.
Yeah.
It's going to be packed. So of course it was packed at Shepherd Hill, and for them to come in, obviously on their mind is to upset them, but of course you also got to play the game too. Even though they say you want to upset them, well, of course you got to play. And the first set goes to Shepherd Hill, and it seems like it's pretty much like the momentum is Shepherd Hill, but Raiders fight back and then win the second set, and it goes back and forth. Shepherd Hill wins the first and third sets. Raiders win the second and fourth set and fight their way in that fourth set. That was a up and down fourth set for Raiders to just play gritty volleyball and fight for that, what would be that deciding fifth point. And again, we're in the playoffs, so to go to five sets is pretty fantastic.
It's intense, I'm sure.
Yeah, so it was intense. It was the gym was packed, and that's when Raiders again believed in each other as teammates and faced adversity. And maybe I would say it was more of a quiet night for Kruger and Dosher, even though they're making contributions a little bit more quiet than other nights. And that's when you saw the depth of this team, because then it was the juniors like Anna Hermachinsky and Maria Vitali, who just were clutch in that game and ended up helping in that fourth set to make it a fifth set. And it went down to the wire. The fifth set is always 15 points unless you're not 2 points ahead. So of course, they went to 16. But Raiders, fought it off, and probably the loudest kill that Megan Kruger made in her high school career was for that deciding 16 points. So it was just a really exciting game, a tournament win for them to knock off the number 9 seed. Unfortunately, they then went to Groton Dunstable and just were pretty much overpowered by that team. But again, just to see, it's great to make the playoffs, but you also got to look back at how you got there, the journey. And it was great to see how they again relied on each other and overcame challenges, and it's something that all the seniors will remember and look back on as positives. But obviously those weren't the only players on the team, so let's have a shout out for more of the ones that made impact. So who would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, one of the players that I really want to talk about is and when you talk about volleyball, obviously, all positions are important, but especially important is up front. And
Yes.
you look at, Raiders volleyball has always, had some very talented up front players as far back as I can remember. I mean, I'm thinking back all the way to the Tiara Allen days of, just really solid, height up front and spiking ability. And you look at players like Kruger and Katie Jones and players like that who really just continued game in and game out, point in and point out to make an impact for this team. And you talk about the Shepherd Hill match. I mean, when you're on the road in a tournament contest, I mean, you're just gonna, every point matters. I mean, it matters in every match, but especially in that type of environment. And just everybody needs to step up big, and they certainly did in that victory. And I mean, like you said, 12-6 overall record, 11-5 in the regular season. Sort of bounced back after sort of midway, sort of being at a crossroads. This team, deserves a lot of credit for the season that they had. I know it, ended, in the quarterfinals against a tough top seed, Groton Dunstable. But this team, like you said, has a lot to be proud of, and for the seniors, should not hang their heads. I mean, they certainly had like I said, just a very successful season, and hopefully they can translate that into more success next year. But I know, obviously, we've talked about a lot of the players, but now it's time to go to our final game changer of the night. Rebecca, who are we looking for this girls volleyball team?
Well, I have to go with Maria Batali as the setter. I remember last year her making an impact as a sophomore, and just to see her come back this year, she must have been working really, really hard in the off season, because it definitely showed. In volleyball, you hear the term dig, set, spike. You hear it all the time, and that is what is going to make your offense even better. And as the setter, I mean, that's probably one of the most important positions, because it's going to help get your offense points. I mean, you take a look at other teams and the setter's way off. Like it's all about timing, making that set towards the still learning name of position and stuff with volleyball. So don't hold it against me. But I believe like the Kruger outside hitter.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it is. So the setter, you can't just hit the ball and hope that it goes over to them good enough and they can find air and get that spike and get that kill. It's timing. It's making sure the location is right, and just looking at all the games. I mean, Batali she could probably be blindfolded at this point. I mean, it would be the soft serves where you're next to your teammate. Those I don't want to take away from it. That's not a skill, but you're right next to him, so it should be a good set to the player. But Batali also just thrived at, I don't know if I'm saying it the right way, but the side set, it would go over the middle hitter, and you would have to be perfect timing with the outside hitter, so that they could get that spike, they could get that point from that kill. And it was just tremendous how well she did it, and even perfected what I would call the backwards set, where she's got her back to the outside. I don't know if it's the right outside hitter. Yes, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
But to set up, she's just having full trust that her teammate is right behind her.
Right.
So she's setting it without even looking to see if they're behind. And to hit the ball like that and have it then go right back behind her perfectly to the outside hitter, and then they lay down the spike, they lay down the kill. There's a lot more into it than what you see on film. You just think, yeah, well, it's going to be like that. No. And trust me, I tried volleyball with some friends. Man, it's not just hitting the ball. You need a lot of talent, a lot of practice, and you can tell that she's put a lot of hard work into it, and that led to the majority of nasty kills from Dosher and Kruger were because she's such a good setter. And it was also key in the Shepherd Hill game as well, that she set up set up a lot of the point spikes and point kills, especially, but to get the 25th point to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was such an exciting volleyball game to win on the road in the playoffs. I mean, they were just going crazy with that, but she was the one that set up that deciding game-winning point. And she's, she thrives as a setter, but she's also great at the serves. And she also has this little effect where you see in some games where she makes it look like she's going for the set, and then hits it just enough to get the points herself and fool the defense. So definitely a fun player to watch throughout the season. And again, she is a junior, so she'll be back next year and be, I'm sure, more than ready to be that game changer again for the Raiders.
I would not be surprised at all.
No, I would not be surprised. So that wraps up the 5 major sports that we were talking about for the fall season. Obviously, there's a lot more exciting sports that happens. We're not able to film it. Girls swimming, congratulations on a fantastic season by girls swimming. They were sectional champions.
Yeah.
Kate Mullen, I hear that name constantly.
I think she's setting the school diving record every single meet. I feel like she breaks
sets,
her own record.
Yes, she sets a record.
And she breaks her own record the
next week.
meet.
Breaks it. Yeah, fantastic. I think she's a junior. I'm not
sure.
Yeah, but I think she still has another year. Which if she didn't, I mean, then you did fantastic for the 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, cross country always seems
both boys and girls.
Fantastic, yeah.
I think both boys and girls finished very high in the
I believe
state
boys
meet.
were. They won something.
Boys
I saw them
won
wear.
something,
Yeah. Man, we sound lovely. They won something. I want to say they won something towards the state championship.
Yeah.
It was a big trophy. Girls were runners up. So
I think the boys did win the state championship.
Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah,
We'll go with they won something.
Something, yeah.
Oh man, sorry guys.
Boys golf.
You
Also,
did great.
Yeah, boys
golf
also had
as
another
well.
great season. I think won all their conference games again this year, and finished very well at the sectional meets. So obviously, a big shout out to them. They always seem to have good seasons
As
this
well,
year,
yes. Too bad we didn't have like 20 cameras and 20 people to help out. Then maybe we could follow these other teams. But congratulations on.
We're still watching.
Yeah,
even,
we're
even
still
if
taking
we're not
note.
covering you, we are still watching, and just a lot of impressive stuff going on the fields, courts, pools, and golf courses, and tracks this season.
And, you had mentioned, too, about Tim Mason, Coach Mason.
Yeah, Tim Mason, I mean, again, Division I Eastern Mass Coach of the Year by the Eastern Mass Boys Soccer Coaches Association. Yeah, did a tremendous job and definitely deserves the recognition. Very, very happy for him. So congratulations, Coach.
Yeah, huge honor. And also another coach that didn't coach in the any fall sports, but Coach Glenn Magpiong, special shout out. Fantastic coach, but even better person.
Great guy.
Just to go back to what he did over the summer, 3rd year in a row for Tour to Cure, bringing awareness to just a horrible, horrendous disease known as ALS that affects far too many good people, especially been hit in Wellesley. Look back at junior varsity coach Seaver a few years back.
Close to Coach Magpiong.
Yeah. So Coach Magpiong, that definitely is dear to him as he raises awareness for the people that he has known, fighting for people who no longer can. And if you were fortunate enough to follow his blog over the summer too as well, I mean, talk about inspiring. Just checking out pictures as well. When you think about it, over 3,000 miles because it's to California. So it's over 3,000 miles, not driving. Riding a bike.
It was him and his
and
dad.
His 80-year-old dad.
And a friend of his. And
yeah.
I gotta say, you want to talk about toughness and perseverance. Coach Magpiong did have a small setback during the run. He was involved in a little bit of a accident, but
merely a flesh wound.
Yeah, really a flesh wound. But no, I mean, just the fact that he was able, to overcome that and continue to ride and finish the ride just sort of shows you just his dedication and commitment, determination to raise awareness for for the disease ALS.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no words to sort of describe how much respect I have for Coach Magpiong and what he's done to raise awareness and just in general. I mean, he's just a really good guy, and obviously, girls basketball season starting up. He's going to be roaming the sidelines yet again, but we just want to say, Coach, again, congratulations on a tremendous accomplishment. And he won an award.
Yeah, that's what I was also saying.
Yeah.
If you stop talking, I can
stealing your thunder here a little bit, even though it's your show. So I apologize.
But as I was saying, as we started up, speaking of awards, before pregame against for Raiders football before the Norwood game, he was given an award by the MIAA for the MIAA Award for Athletic Achievement in Leadership and Community Service. I'm like, I got to make sure I say that right.
Yeah,
but just a tremendous award, and so well deserved too as well, and to have that. Be acknowledged too as well during the fall. Definitely just inspiring. It's really inspiring.
Great job, Coach.
So,
Great job again. It's worth repeating. Great job.
Band of wheels. You'll know what I mean.
Yeah.
Hashtag band of wheels.
If you're a girls basketball fan, you know what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. But also, again, we talked a little bit about Thanksgiving football. That was a great game, but before we end this...
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Of course, you know. Huge shout out to all the senior girls who kicked butt in the rain and cold.
On the road
at Needham for the Powder Puff Trophy that
trophy came back,
belongs in Wellesley.
First time in many
7 years.
But I was going to say first time in over a decade that both trophies have resided in Wellesley in the same year.
Yeah, but we're talking about girls. Boys kidding.
All right, seven.
We're talking about the girls' trophy.
First time in 7 years.
7 years.
Right.
Let's just talk about
both
Powder
accomplishments are pretty good.
We already talked about Thanksgiving Day football. We're talking about Powder Puff here. Jeez. But anyways, congratulations to all the senior girls. man. Should we do another take on that?
I think it was good banter. It's exciting. No, it's fun stuff, really.
And it was a nice trophy too. I saw that trophy, and they already engraved the final score of 20-0.
No, and in all seriousness, great job, Powderpuff.
Yeah, and
it's been a long time to finally see girls get the
And
wins.
how did I not know about Imma Saliva? Over 230 yards rushing.
Oh wow.
Where did this kid come from?
You know.
I don't know. Maybe she's been saving it
just
for
that
senior
one
day.
game.
Well, thank you.
Great job.
Yeah, so hopefully next year that can also be back to back for the girls. But for now, just enjoy that win because it was tremendous and it was great to see
Good job, girls.
the Needham seniors ticked off as well. But yeah, so that does it because my voice is done, and you're probably saying, "Thank God."
But it was a lot of fun. I mean, anytime we get together to do these, it's a fun time to look back and highlight, some very always exciting seasons. And I guess we'll see you folks in the winter.
Which is actually tomorrow.
Yeah. We always seem to do these at least 3 to 4 weeks after the season actually ends, but that's
my apologies. I got behind, and then I got the worst head cold ever in the state of Massachusetts. That 2 weeks later, I still don't have a voice, and I went through a whole ginormous bottle of Gatorade just to do this show. So thank you for your patience, and sorry you had to listen to this voice, but hey, thankfully, thanks again for guest co-hosting, not ghosting.
Not ghosting, yes.
Not ghosting this time around.
No, it was a lot of fun. So thank you.
And of course, join me next time for when we do the winter sports recap.
In the winter.
Yeah. So that officially ends this episode. Of course, you can check on demand at wellesleymedia.org. If you missed any highlights, you want to, for some reason, listen to my voice again and watch Black Red Blitz, I don't know, knock yourself out. I don't care. That's fine as long as you don't mind his voice. But check it out on demand at wellesleymedia.org and on YouTube and Facebook pages at Wellesley Public Media. My voice is going, so you know what? Just cut. Thank you for watching.
I'm Robbie Johnson.
You're messing it up. That's Robbie Johnson.
And that's Rebekah Caron.
Thank you for saving my voice. Thanks for watching Black Red Blitz. Go Raiders.
See ya.
Now Hubbard coming out to play. Hubbard gets leveled. And oh my goodness.